the right-wingers are always talking about they want to drug test people who apply for any kind of social safety net help at all. You know, food stamps. Now, usually when this works its way to court, it's thrown out. But food stamps, you got to take a drug test. Temporary assistance to needy family, take a drug test. Medicaid, take a drug test. You know, and they think that is a righteous point of view. Now, the reason they think that is because they are filthy, stinking Republicans. But what about if somebody aspires to be the Speaker of the House, he is tested as to whether or not he's an alcoholic? In other words, a drug test. Alcohol is a drug. It is a highly addictive drug. It kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. It kills slowly, which means that you and I, the non-alcohol addicted segment of the population, have to pay either in increased insurance premiums on our own policies or through the charity hospitals that these thugs usually wind up in. By thugs, I mean, I'm not talking about your average alcoholic. It is a disease. I understand that. I'm not busting up on people because they have a genetic predisposition to become addicted to alcohol and then do so. Now, there are ways to overcome the disease. AA is probably the very least effective way to do it. The failure rate in Alcoholics Anonymous is about 97%. In other words, about 3% of the people who go into AA actually get their drinking stopped. Now, that's not my number. I mean, seriously, I couldn't care less about that. If somebody finds all that higher power stuff and that 12-step stuff works for them, go for it. I'm just saying, John Boehner, who, by his own admission, is a heavy-duty wine drinker, and by his own admission, he, constantly checks his watch to see when he can get the hell out of there and head for the nearest Capitol Hill bar. Is there nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says someone who is Speaker of the House should be able to function and not be drug-addled 90% of the time that he's supposed to be, not just the Speaker of the House, but also a member of Congress? Now, if you're a member of Congress, you're one of the 435. You probably got there if you're a Republican because some corporate yahoo saw you as an easy mark and got you in there so that you could vote and do things for the corporate yahoo, certainly not for the people back in the home district. But even with that, shouldn't there be a drug test for alcoholics? Now, I don't know if such a test exists, but maybe just to see if they can stay undrunk for a 90-day period once they have tossed their hat in the ring. One thing you knew about Eric Cantor, he was not a drunk. He was the perennial junior class hall monitor, but he was not a drunk. And I think that's one of the reasons that Boehner was afraid of him. People in positions of power who are alcoholics, I think, understand that they are constantly at risk of losing everything that they have. I mean, this is not hard stuff. We all know this. So many alcoholics cannot even begin the path to recovery until they have fallen all the way to the bottom and beyond. Look at the movie Days of Wine and Roses. I'm not saying that that's the be-all, end-all handbook. Video handbook on what happens to people who are alcoholics, but that's a pretty good depiction of what happens. So Boehner, who is an alcoholic, trying to lead the House, now he's going to file a lawsuit against Obama. He won't say why, but because of Obama acting within the confines that have been established as the executive branch was made bigger and bigger. This is madness as well as insanity. Yes?
No, I was just gonna say that I thought one of the I'm always so short. One of the definitive movies about this recently was, to me, that struck a chord was Leaving Las Vegas.
Right.
That was a little bit more um,
Well, that's an updated.
recent
Yeah.
than Days of Wine and Roses.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been a lot, 28 Days with Meg Ryan, but I mean, Leaving Las Vegas is one of those that really kind of illustrates the horror of someone who's so wrapped up in their alcoholism that they're actually psychotic and can't escape.
Right. True. Now, here's the update I promised you. This is according to the Huffington Post. In a memo addressed to his colleagues today, Boehner officially announced his plans to introduce legislation in July that would authorize the House General Counsel to sue the Obama administration and compel the president to fulfill his oath of office to enforce existing law. What does that mean? See what I mean? Boehner wrote in the memo, or somebody wrote for him, if the current president can selectively enforce, change, or create laws as he chooses with impunity without the involvement of the legislative branch, his successors will be able to do the same. This shifts the balance of power decisively and dangerously in favor of the presidency, giving the president king-like authority at the expense of the American people and their elected legislators. At the expense of the American people? John Boehner presides over a collection of miscreants that have no problem shutting down the goddamn government. They have no problem leaving people who depend on government. We live in a society that allegedly is designed for self-governance. And Boehner is such an incompetent freak, as well as an alcoholic, that he has no problem presiding over these and allowing, if not encouraging, these other miscreants to shut down the United States. And Boehner is saying that the president has king-like authority at the expense of the American people? Jesus H. Christ. Now, according to the update at Huffington, it's still unclear which executive actions Boehner means to challenge. But the memo names a few areas, including, here's a surprise, health care. I guess that would be the Affordable Care Act. They've tried to repeal it 53 times, didn't work, so let's do it this way. Energy, that means getting in the way of the Koch brothers as they destroy the planet. Foreign policy, that means we're not bombing enough people. Education, that means there's too much of that science-y crap, and they want to get that out of the way so they can do their creationism crap. All of these things that the President Boehner says has repeatedly run an end-around, run-around on American people. End-around, run-around, something like that. We'll be back in a minute.